Today is the day of Donald Trump's inauguration for the second time as President of the United States. So it seems like an appropriate day for me to present to you the two Five-Eye strategic decisions, strategic planning processes. One that was very useful, the original one, in more predictable, stable environments, and the new one, the revised, updated one, which is much more suitable for taking decisions and doing strategic planning exercises in environments that are a little bit more turbulent, where there's a high levels of uncertainty, etc. So this video is just to walk you through the two different versions and to show you a couple of examples of the different environments in which you should apply the two. So the original linear Five-Eye strategic planning process was focused initially on identifying the issues that organizations face as of this moment, identifying the big questions, the big dilemmas, the major challenges that they face today. And the objective was to get everybody, all stakeholders, on the same page, right? Understanding where they were as an organization. The second stage was to focus on the imagination, to do some scenario planning and identify some of the assumptions we were making about what the future might turn out to be. So by doing scenarios and really having kind of generative conversations about what the world could look like, plausible futures for what the markets, the customers, the organization might look like, we would be able to have some really good conversations and ultimately arrive at an intent, our decision. Where are we going in the next 3 to 5 years as an organization, as a team, a department? Having done that, we would innovate, create change within the organization to make sure the new vision was achieved, and we do some kind of follow-up, put it up in project portfolios, etc., to make sure we made an impact. So this was a really good, rigorous model in simple situations where organizations or teams can be viewed as a separate entity operating in a given environment. And in a little bit more detail, in the issues phase, we'd do things like the SWOT analysis or SWOT TOEs. We'd use Porter's different models, the Diamond E and the Macmillan matrix, etc., in order to identify the issues. In the scenarios area, we'd use strategic assumptions, come up with some guiding principles, and look at the 4 strategic moves which came out of that exercise in order to come up with either a new mission statement, a new strategic intent, or positioning. For the innovation phase, we'd use strategic maps and balanced scorecards, and we'd come up with action plans and use tools such as Dr. Grack in order to make sure accountability, responsibility, deliverables were really clearly communicated. And that was the essence of a really effective, efficient strategic planning, strategic decision process in a kind of a linear, stable, predictable environment where it's relatively well structured and we have a pretty good idea where the different markets and trends are going. So when would you use that, and when would you still use that, is for government ministries and departments, for national subsidiaries of global multinationals, strategic plans for a human resource department, or for production, marketing and sales within an organization. When the future appears relatively stable, predictable, in conservative organizational cultures where you can't really push the envelope in terms of process, in terms of how you do strategic decisioning, and in essence where the unit can be viewed as a separate entity, a unique entity operating in a given environment with predetermined deliverables, either from global head office for a national organization, or to given certain deliverables given to a HR department within an organization. So there wasn't that much room for strategic change of direction. You kind of knew what you have to do. So why do we need a different set of 5 eyes? It's the reality is for many organizations, companies, etc., the world is no longer stable, predictable. We operate in what is known as the VUCA world, volatile, uncertainty, complex, ambiguous, or can be known as the BANI, which is a slightly different acronym, but same kind of idea, where systems are fragile, easily broken, where levels of anxiety are high. It's a non-linear type of world. And really, we can't understand all the nuances in order to use data analysis and data research in order to come up with the answers. Or in an environment which is described as rapidly changing, unpredictable, paradoxical, and where the nature of the interconnected nature of the organization and its system makes everything kind of entangled, and it's hard to isolate problems. So using the original 5I is not as effective in this kind of environment. So what we've done as an organization is to update the 5I process to be really effective now in complex systems. But it is quite a different 5Is. The first is we arrive as a group of very diverse stakeholders, and it really is important to have all the stakeholders in the room. We try and sense the full system, and the real objective of this phase is to come up with a shared intention, really clear from all the stakeholders about what we're trying to achieve, why we've come together, why this is worthwhile, etc. Having achieved that, we really dive in. We really dive in and listen to different stakeholders' point of view. We do some research and analysis, but not to try and come up with solutions, but really to try and just get a good understanding of where everybody's coming from. And we challenge our prevailing assumptions. We let go of the old patterns, and we sense more into the dynamic social field that has been created amongst the stakeholders in the dialogue. We're more focused on the chemistry of the group that's together, the invisible, and trying to find where the system is stuck and where the system is flowing, where things are going well. And we basically have to accept that our old way of taking decisions, i.e. really focusing on information gathering, analysis, details, is not going to work in this type of VUCA type environment. But if we do create a sense of shared intention and we really dive in to the complexity, the detail, but just in a kind of understanding mode as opposed to a decisioning mode, we then come to the third stage, which is really a radical difference to the original 5Is, is that we kind of settle in and accept the fact that we don't have the answers. We can never have all the data, and that the system that we're trying to change is actually, it's not understandable to a simple human being or even to a group or even with AI. It's like there's lots of information there, there's lots of detail, and it's much more a matter of sensing into our full body wisdom, our intuition, and our group dynamics into where the group thinks the organization should go and what might be useful to try. And this is where insights, new perspectives, and the sense of emergence, what emerges from the group in terms of potential avenues, pathways to explore, can be captured. And ultimately, what we do is test them out. Fifth I is now iteration. We test things because this environment is no longer predictable, stable. So any decision we take today might not be right tomorrow. So what we're really trying to do is get unstuck as an organization and just start moving forward with various different strategic options, etc. We're just evaluating with a real willingness to try things, to fail, to experiment, and the ones that succeed we keep investing in, and the ones that are not successful, we just cast aside as part of the process. So the important thing to think about with these new 5Is, it takes a very different way of thinking about decisioning and a very different way of being. In the first stage, we really need to sit down with people who potentially have been completely diverse views of of the situation, of our ideas, of the position that we've staked on it, any topic. And maybe we have to sit down with people who have traditionally been our opponents, our enemies even, and really get into a welcoming space that we can invite them into a process where we can come up with a strategic intention as to what are we trying to do together, what is achievable. We then move into what we call staccato, which is the idea of breaking down or breaking out the old ways of thinking, the old barriers between us, and to explore those edges, to explore where two different stakeholders meet and their diverging points of views, not with the idea of trying to solve them, but just with an idea of understanding, accepting, appreciating, even empathizing with people who see things very differently, and just recognize the boundaries and the known limits. But we're trying to break out a little bit of our traditional way of operating, traditional way of viewing things, traditional way of thinking. And if we do that really well, we can drop into a stage of abandon where we really let go of trying to have the answer and trying to win in those kind of win-lose conversations we often have with stakeholders or colleagues that we're trying to get our point over. But it really is a matter of sensing in more to what's happening in the social field, what we're feeling is the right thing to do, and what the right dynamic is, what the current right dynamic is within the system we're looking at. And then settle into a sense of stillness, accepting that we don't know, we'll never know what the exact right answer is, and just allowing some space to emerge, a little bit like a white canvas. We're not coming in with given arguments, we're not trying to win with our ideas, we're literally having kind of broken down the old ways of thinking. We now can literally start afresh and start to say, given everybody's point of view, what might emerge? And that's where the sense of emergence, letting come. If we can get into some really good generative conversations with different stakeholders, new things can emerge and the unknown becomes known, and we start to have a little inkling as to what we should do next in order to move forward on any given strategic decision or our strategic planning, etc. And then we move into a posture, a stance that many of us are familiar with in terms of now we're driving forward, we're driving the bus, we want to get things done, we want to try things, knowing that some are going to fail and that some are going to succeed. So as you look at those 6 different stances, you'll see that probably some of them are more comfortable for you. Some of them are more difficult for you. Some of them you'll have a challenge with. Some of you, particularly when you get to go with other people, it might not be easy. But when you're looking at the updated 5 I's, it really is very important to be able to learn and ultimately master these different ways of operating throughout the decision-making process. So ultimately we can come up with some ideas as a group as to how we should move forward. So under what circumstances should we use the new 5 I's in particular? For startups, when markets are still and technologies are still there's no mature one, they're still emerging, attacking what we call wicked or double wicked problems. Family business and many small and medium-sized businesses where there's just a few decision makers, we have a lot of latitude for movement, but the markets are moving quickly, so we have to move with a lot of flexibility and agility. Social, community and not-for-profit organizations. In innovative entrepreneurial organizational cultures, opposed to conservative, one where we can try and be a little bit different. And basically when the unit is part of a system that we can't break down with any clarity. It just is a system that we will never fully understand, and really trying to manage that uncertainty and sense into what wants to happen as opposed to settling into research and analysis and trying to come up with the answer through numbers is the best way to move forward. So we basically have 2 different environments for 2 different sets, if you like, of the 5 I's of strategic decision making and strategic planning. Which one might be right for you? I'd really like to hear your feedback on this, and you can email me at mark.hollingworth@5istrategicaffairs.com. I'd really like to hear your feedback, and if I can help you out working on any of these things, then that would be wonderful. Thank you so much, and I look forward to hearing from you.